Charite opantes, Amy Anipsios Leonides, so cousin Leonid. Okay, and I'm here to talk to you about another piece of grammar, and this shouldn't take us too long, so I'll try and stick to about 5 minutes or a little less. Okay, so we got the strong aorist today. So the one that we were looking at before was the weak aorist. Okay, and this can be used for either Koine Greek or for classical Greek. Either one is okay. And just as a summary, the other day we talked about a timeline. Okay, we've got exactly the same slides here, and I am using slideshow presentation to do this. So we have certain tenses which are used in the past. So we're using the pluperfect as far back as we can get. We can use the aorist for really completed action. So in Latin we would use the perfect tense, but in Greek we would use the aorist tense to have completed action. And the imperfect is really a process. It can be used in a number of respects, and we might talk about that in a future video. I've talked about how the perfect is different in Greek from the Latin, so you can go and look at that video if that's of interest to you. And the future perfect, I put an asterisk next to it because it's virtually never ever used in classical Greek. Alright, so it does exist, but I have never actually seen an example in the wild. Okay, that may just be because I've read the wrong kind of things, but I don't think it's used anywhere near as commonly as it is used in Latin. Okay, so let's go over what we talked about last time. So we talked about the aorist being completed action, and I gave you a series of endings. Now, it suddenly occurred to me after I'd done that video that there are in fact two kinds of aorist endings, and we only saw the one. So we saw and I put this in the notes for the episode. We saw something for the weak aorist. So the difference is that we don't have one which is stronger than the other one, or one which is weaker than the other one. These are names that grammarians gave to something which changes its form drastically. So that is the strong endings, or something which maintains basically the same stem form as the present tense, but it changes the form slightly. So if we want an analogy in English, we actually do have one. It is like, okay, if we want the past tense of a verb in English, okay, so let's use the verb to butter. So I buttered the bread, you butter the bread, she butters the bread, etc. If we want to make that past tense, we could have buttered the bread with a simple ed. So that would be the equivalent of the kind of aorist that we've already dealt with. But if we want something which changes its stem, so I run, I ran, okay, then we have a different form, which is what we do in Greek. We have something. We use the example akou, I listen, and we had the aorist as being ekousa, I listened. Okay, why don't we take a different example? And it's a bit extreme, but I'm picking an example that I actually found in the New Testament, where we're getting most of our examples from. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so we've got Elton. Okay, I'm not going to read out exactly what we've got here, but we've got this as the past tense of the verb erchomai. Now, I said in my introduction to Koine Greek that Koine Greek really doesn't have a middle form in the same way as it does in classical Greek. I kind of mean what I said, but in a verb like erchomai, okay, then we could call that a deponent verb with the idea that it has given up its active form, at least in the present tense. Okay, so if we go back to the aorist, okay, it retains an active form in the aorist and it now has a strong aorist, or I'm not sure if it ever did have a weak aorist, but let's have a look. So we've got elthon, elthezete, elthomen, elthete, elthon. Now, we talked about in our previous video the fact that when you have an imperative or an infinitive of the aorist, okay, it's really got nothing to do with time, or not a great deal to do with time. Okay, so if we use elth there, it doesn't mean come here in the past, because that's kind of impossible. Okay, it kind of means come here the once, as opposed to come here and keep on coming here. Okay, so we got elth there. Now, notice the accentation is reasonably interesting. We'd expect the accent to be on over the first epsilon, but it's not. It's over the second. That's just kind of irregular accentation. So we're going to pay that no mind. The actual ending is what we would expect. And the augment, which is here over the elthon, that augment has gone. So instead of there being two epsilons to make an eta, we only have the one epsilon to make, well, an epsilon. Okay, and the plural, elthete, so that's not too dissimilar. So we had for the aorist imperative of akuor, akuson. Okay, that looks kind of irregular and counterintuitive, but this is kind of the endings that we would expect to have in the present tense anyway. So the way that we can tell that this is aorist rather than present tense is that this stem only ever exists in the aorist tense. All right. So let's move to the infinitive. Okay, we got the ein ending. Okay, so we can see that the present infinitive ending usually ends in epsilon iota nu. Okay, and that's what we got in the aorist. And the way we tell the difference would be that this stem is something that we can only get in the aorist. And that's how we tell the difference. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. If there are any questions, you can ask me in the comment section and I'll try and answer to the best of my ability. If not, then we'll keep on going with something from the New Testament in future. Okay, kia rete.